Hi, it's Dr. Ron England coming back to you again from Daytona State College. This is part two of the IC Cards game. What I've done is I've actually taken the existing part one and I've added a few things to it to start going in the direction that we want to go. Because it's a game, actually statically using cascading style sheets and an HTML is not really going to make it user interactive. So what we have to do is be able to manipulate these objects with JavaScript. This is a great way to learn some of the JavaScript to do this. So what I've done over here is I've gone to the cascading style sheets, which is over here in the upper right hand corner, and I've taken out everything that is not common to all of the different cards. So I have this potential to have multiple image files, and then the pieces of cropped image file are also individual to each card. So that's actually now no longer in the cascading style sheet. If I go over here to the body of the HTML, I have first put in an onload on the body onload so that I can call a function. I'm not going to keep it this way in the final version, but I'm going to have to do this to demonstrate calling a specific function and being able to use that function to dynamically generate the card images. Now, each of the classes that I have here, I've gotten rid of all those separate classes for the airplane, chicken, cow, and flag that were over in cascading style sheets, and I only have cards 1. But I do have an ID for each span inside of the table, C1, C2, C3, and C4. In this case, I'm going to actually show 4 cards, but I'm going to dynamically generate those cards. So really the action occurs here in the function load cards. So let's go down and take a look at load cards. Now if you look at load cards, it's really quite simple here. I simply call another function called setCard. Okay, I pass it C1, which if you remember is the ID of the first span, and then I pass it airplane. So I actually have to have a variable airplane declared here. So let's go up here and look at that. I do create a variable airplane, and I create this airplane variable with one property background position, which I set to the background position, which was in the cascading style sheet. So relatively straightforward. Notice, remember that in the cascading style sheet, background position was actually background dash position. Now that doesn't work in JavaScript. The dash is actually the minus, and that's an operator. So what you'd really get was background minus position. So that doesn't work. But JavaScript, what they do is they simply remove the dash and replace the lowercase p with an uppercase p, and that becomes a property. It's a style property. So this object here called airplane actually has one property, background position, which is a string, which is the actual property value that's set for the background position property for the styles. So really all I've got to do is set those styles. So what I do is the first thing I do is I go ahead and get the element, which is that span element where I want to put the card. So I just use get element by ID, and as you recall I passed the ID C1, so it's going to get back that span element. Then that element is going to have a style property, and I'm going to statically set the background image to be equal to the background image that I did before. I'm not going to keep that this way either, but I want to demonstrate that you can actually set this by specifically hard coding it to this URL, so that background image has done that. So in other words, before I set the background image using cascading style sheets, I'm still using CSS, but I'm using JavaScript to set that background image within the JavaScript of my page. And it's going to get called in setCard. Now, as you know, this is actually highly inefficient, because what happens is every time I call setCard, I reload that image. So in the final version, I'm not going to do it that way either, but it's good to know that you can actually set that background image this way. Then I also pass it the airplane. Okay. Well, the airplane is now going to come over to this function as card style. So element.style background position, remember I want to set the background position, is going to be equal to card style.background position. And if you notice, each of the objects passed over to it, the airplane, chicken, cow, and flag, have a background position property that allows you to set that background position. So when I run it, I get the same exact thing that I did before, but now I'm dynamically creating the cards, and I can do a lot more with this now as I go through and I create my game. Hopefully you kind of get an idea to see where the game is going. I'm going to be able to move and drop and drag and click on these cards. So to do that, I have to have the ability to dynamically generate these cards. So now the game is taking on a direction. I'm not going to tell you where it is going just yet because you're going to see it in the final version, but should be a lot of fun as we move towards, and hopefully I'm now understanding some of the primary elements of JavaScript and how I use those in manipulating the way that I want these cards to appear. Thank you very much and good programming. Part 3 will be coming up soon.